Hey guys, welcome back to our part 2 on American mail systems and the history behind them. Today we're talking all about Benjamin Franklin and the early American mail system. So guys, you've probably heard the name Benjamin Franklin. He was born in Boston back in 1732, and he came to Pennsylvania as a small boy, Philadelphia to be more specific, where he worked as an apprentice and kind of got into the trade of printing. So while working in Philadelphia, he did a lot of things. He printed Poor Richard's Almanac. At one point, he was helping print the currency. He founded the first fire department. He had his hands in a lot of things because he was a really big civic figure, civic planner, founding father, and also a world-renowned inventor. And he was quite popular. In the 1750s, Benjamin Franklin became the comptroller of the United States Postal System at the time when it was colonial. Still ran by the British. And he was given this extra power, and he succeeded. You know, he really cleaned up those finances, had the books looking good. And in 1753, he was actually made the Postmaster General of America. So he was made to oversee all of the colonial postal systems. And during this time, he started implementing a hub and spoke model. He started going out and charting the different distance between different post offices. He standardized rates. At one point, he hooked an odometer up to his carriage and did the routes himself to figure out how to minimize distance and how to charge appropriately for that length of distance traveled. So he was able to get this postal system humming. And when he started, the post office was running a huge deficit. By the time the 1770s came around, Benjamin Franklin had this thing humming, and it was turning a profit, and he was very proud. He was very proud to remit payments back to the crown and say, look at me, look at how good of a job I'm doing, running this colonial postal system, that we took it from a total mess and turned it into a profitable endeavor that's able to transport mail. So Benjamin Franklin got this whole system making a profit. He was managing all of the king's post offices, although most of these post offices were in the Northeast. And he had the rates all uniform. Huge accomplishments for such a large landmass and the lack of technology that was present at the time. So fast forward, the year 1774, and Franklin is being fired from being Postmaster General because he is seen as too sympathetic to the American cause. So Franklin returns to Philadelphia, and he takes part in the Second Continental Congress. And one of the things they discuss during the Second Continental Congress is the United States Postal System. Because when the U.S. breaks away from Britain, they're going to have their own way of corresponding, because they're not going to be able to rely on the crown anymore to fund the transit of letters and small packages throughout the colonies and back to England. So around this time, Franklin has all these great ideas, and George Washington appoints him as the first Postmaster General of the United States Post Office. And this is in 1775, and he would do this for about a year and a half, where he would lay the groundwork for our modern postal system. During this time, he would come up with a lot of innovations. He established postmasters in all of America's major cities, as well as created the office for future expansion as America would begin to grow. He logged all post offices or buildings that were part of the postal system at the time to have a complete list from which he was able to operate his hub and spoke system and create long postal routes that would stretch from Massachusetts all the way down to Savannah, Georgia. So he was controlling this large, massive network. And he figured out how to uniformly charge for packages and letters. He figured out how to maximize these routes and minimize the distance between them. And the American Post Office overtook the British Post Office within a year. By Christmas of 1775, the British Post Office was tendering such few packages compared to the United States Post Office that it was losing money. Nobody was shipping any letters, packages, anything back to England, and these huge losses caused the Crown's Post Office to completely and totally collapse in the colonies. And this was a huge win for the United States Post Office because it established it as a lasting fixture in American life. So Franklin would go on to do other things like sign the Declaration of Independence, work in the government, work in the legislature, till he eventually passed away about 10 years later. But his impact as that first postmaster for the United States Post Office was really instrumental in laying the groundwork that the modern United States Postal Service is built upon. Although we wouldn't have a true first Postmaster General until after the signing of the Constitution, Benjamin Franklin was instrumental in building the framework that future postmasters would have a solid foundation to work upon. This is the story of the United States Post Office and kind of how it got its roots. And we really owe it mostly to one man who, spent his entire life devoted to public service and improving and innovating within American society. So next week, we're going to cover UPS and the story behind UPS. And that's going to be a really exciting episode, so we hope you'll join us for that. If you could take a second, give us a like, give us a subscribe. We really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next week.